All right, good evening, and thank you so much for attending this presentation tonight as part of our Sustainability Speaker Series. My name is Mark Klopach, and I am here representing two of the partner organizations for tonight, including the UW River Falls Office of Sustainability and Hope for Earth. I also want to give a shout out to the River Falls Public Library for partnering with us on this series, and to Kim for her help with all of the technology for live streaming and recording the event. This is the last event in the speaker series until next fall, and it has been a great year. Other events in the series this academic year included learning about birding through the Urban Bird Collective, sustainable building design through the Green Buildings Panel, radical imaginations for climate hopeful futures, life depends on rivers, how healthy rivers support strong communities, and Alda Leopold, a view for all seasons and centuries. The recordings of these presentations are all available on the River Falls Public Library YouTube channel. While tonight's event is the last event in the series for this year, please know that we will start planning for next year's series in a few months, mostly once we get past Earth Fest. So if you have any ideas for topics or presenters, feel free to get in touch with myself, Mike Noreen, or you can email hopeforearthrf@gmail.com. But basically, over the course of the summer, we'll finalize a lot of the presentations for next fall and hopefully next spring. We always try to leave a little bit of an opportunity for if a presenter just happens to come up with not nearly as much notice. So we try to build that flexibility into our programming as well. I do want to call out an upcoming event. So of course, coming up on April 25th, we have Earth Fest. So a very large event. It's from noon to 4, both inside and outside the UWRF University Center. So just a little ways this way. It will feature over 80 exhibitors, food, entertainment, hands-on activities, a green skills sampler mini sessions, and much more. So if that's not on your calendar yet, mark your calendars. There's plenty of extra posters on the tables outside. So feel free to take one, hang it up wherever you go, or share it with whoever you can. One other thing that I just want to mention that really relates to tonight's presentation is Hope for Earth has worked with a class here on campus. It's a community decision-making class with Dr. Chris Holtkamp, and those students have identified and put together a survey around community sustainability. So that has just started going out over the last few days. There's some posters on the back tables as well with a QR code. The survey takes about 15 minutes. It's open to anybody in or around River Falls. So we're really trying to structure some of that work around the broad sense of community, not necessarily just within city limits. So if you live nearby or within city limits, please take that survey, share with others. We're trying to get several hundred people to take that survey over the next few weeks. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Brooks Ostendorf, who serves as the Conservation and Parks Manager with the City of River Falls.
So again, I'm Brooks Ostendorf, Conservation and Parks Manager for the City of River Falls, and I'm here today to present on the topic of ensuring a sustainable future, conservation, parks, and the city's resiliency efforts. I want to start by thanking Mark with UWRF for inviting me to speak with you all today, and to UWRF for hosting alongside Hope for Earth and the Public Library. This is a wonderful event, and I'm really honored to be a part of it. My speaking here was born out of conversations we had as we brainstormed ways to inform the community of how the city has been addressing sustainability topics. Having been on board for just over a year now, I thought, what better time than now to provide you with an update on what we're up to over at City Hall. So I want to begin with giving a little bit about my background, where I came from, and why I'm in River Falls today. I grew up in St. Paul and went to college at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I graduated with a degree in landscape architecture. It was in Madison where I learned about the Wisconsin idea, the general principle that education should influence people's lives beyond the boundaries of the classroom. More so, and this is what was really ingrained in me, was that all students are guided by a commitment to public service. While I didn't know I would end up in River Falls upon graduation, that idea of public service was planted during that foundational time. I spent the next 14 years figuring out how I could best practice landscape architecture while also serving the public. I want to stop and pose the question that some of you may be asking yourself about what is landscape architecture? I've gotten a lot of answers over the years and want to at least give my definition. By its very nature, it's a profession of subtlety. It's a discipline focused on the planning, design, management, and stewardship of land and outdoor spaces to improve environmental health, human experience, and community resilience. That is accomplished through a litany of ways, including, but not limited to, shaping outdoor spaces, managing natural systems, designing for people, responding to environmental challenges, and guiding long-term land use. At its best, the profession is a confluence between design, engineering, natural resources, and behavioral sciences. A landscape architect has to wear many hats and work at many different scales, as if being fluent in multiple languages. So my journey started in St. Paul, and it was there that I learned about the importance of easy access to parks and open space. Being able to reach an incredible amount of parks throughout the cities without a car left an indelible impact on me and how I view cities. Similarly, I learned from a young age the impact of the natural environment on how cities develop over time. While as a kid I didn't know there was a term for it, there was a distinct emotional feeling associated with the cities that I thought couldn't happen anywhere else. That wasn't until I got to Madison and I learned that there was actually a term for that feeling: sense of place. In general, sense of place describes our relationship with places, expressed in different dimensions of human life: emotions, imagination, stories, and personal experiences. More than anything, it became clear to me that every place has its own distinct character that is informed by culture, environment, history, politics, economics, and the list goes on. I learned not to experience places through the lens of, wow, this place is actually better than that, but rather look for the specific things that make any one place unique. There was no place I needed to practice that more than in Los Angeles, where I landed my first job as a landscape designer after graduation. It's a vast and complex city that is deeply misunderstood, but a difficult city to live in without an immediate connection. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to develop that emotional connection while living there, but my heart has definitely grown fond of the city every year being away. It's a really great city, and I learned a lot there. I might be belaboring the obvious, but LA was built around the car. For better or worse, it's part of its sense of place. Its highways and aqueducts were once engineering marvels, but now the city has looked to correct some of those past environmental and planning mistakes. What I admire most about the city is how it's transformed itself in spite of deep-rooted challenges. It didn't dig its heels in and refuse to change, it adapted. In some cities, sense of place is harder to uncover, whereas in others it hits you upside the head. Portland, Oregon is one of those places. I worked as a landscape architect at a firm in Portland for 7 years and learned how deeply environmental stewardship can be ingrained in a community. It's consistently ranked as one of the top sustainable cities in the country, taking innovative approaches to city planning, sustainable transportation, stormwater, and green infrastructure. Signs of sustainability are everywhere you look in that city. And as a city, they've embraced growth without sacrificing their exceptional resources. As a former resident, I can confidently say that Portlanders recognize how beautiful of a city it is and know full well the effort it takes to maintain that beauty. So practicing as a landscape architect in those cities, I got to work on some amazing projects: residential estates in the Hollywood Hills, universities, corporate campuses, the Rose Bowl, a full gamut of project types. But I always gravitated towards the public realm. What can be more fun than designing the places that have the potential to become cherished community assets? Engaging with the community and public agencies was always the most rewarding aspect of my career. When I finally understood what energized me in a professional capacity, I knew I wanted to make the switch to public service. When I learned about this position, it became clear to me that it was an opportunity to reconnect with my Wisconsin roots and to serve the community in the way I was conditioned to help care for the city's incredible natural resources and provide ethical access for people to enjoy it. So enough about me. It's those natural resources that make River Falls' sense of place so vivid. I remember the first time I drove into town and was blown away by the pronounced topography, the undulating agricultural fields, the range of forested mounds, and the sinuous Kinnickinnick. It was evident that this is a city that grew up in tandem with its environment, not superimposed upon it. While there are big plans proposed for the city, it's been clear from the beginning of my time here that those plans are always with its natural resources at the forefront. So I want to take a minute to just talk about the city's own mission and values. These are our guiding principles, which are used to inform decisions made each and every day. The mission reads, to coordinate and deliver essential services and ensure sustainable future. As you can see, sustainability is integral to our mission. We have 6 core values, but I wanted to highlight this one. Consider future generations by making big plans, leaving things better than we found them, and being mindful of the assets we inherit. Today, I'd like to visit some of those big plans to help illustrate the city's commitment to making River Falls a resilient and sustainable place. These 4 plans on the screen are the guiding documents that set a vision for 20 plus years of growth in the city. They were each developed through an extensive community outreach process and help guide decision making. Each of these plans collectively emphasize resiliency, environmental stewardship, and expanded recreational opportunities. They are the comprehensive plan, in which resiliency is a foundational principle, the outdoor recreation plan, which guides the implementation of this community's vision for outdoor recreation, the bike and pedestrian plan, which improves the experience of moving around the city outside of a vehicle, and the Kinney Corridor Plan, which provides a vision and a frame for the future of the river corridor. In composite, those plans call for increasing access to our parks, open spaces, and natural environment by providing opportunities for all ages and abilities. They also guide us to do so sustainably. Planning and implementing this vision takes years to come to fruition, and once implemented will take time and funding to maintain. It was from those guiding documents that the Conservation and Parks Division was born, and as manager, I'm tasked with implementing many components of those plans. This division provides the policy, planning, and community outreach spanning the breadth of parks, recreation, sustainability, forestry, and natural resource stewardship and management of our open spaces. As made clear by the comprehensive plan, our community prioritizes natural resources, sustainability, and recreation. And as the city continues to grow, the importance of planning and managing our parks and open spaces grows. 2025 was the first year of the division's existence, but that doesn't mean that the work was not being done previously. It was just done across a wide breadth of city positions. The creation of this division has allowed us to be more efficient with city resources by consolidating those efforts under one roof, so to speak. In the first year, significant effort was spent getting the division up and running, including hiring a new recreation coordinator and the city's very first natural resources coordinator, who's in the crowd today. Hi, Levi. A third coordinator will be hired in the near future and will be focused on conservation, natural resources, and sustainability efforts. Capacity is a term that gets used a lot among city staff. The city has set a very high standard for the services we provide in the city, and our residents expect that high standard to be maintained. In 2025, my division was building capacity to meet those standards, and I'm really excited about what's to come. So I'll start with sustainability, one of the 5 legs of the division. Sustainability is a term that I think can take on different meaning depending on who you ask. I've already mentioned how it's ingrained in our city's mission, but I'll offer what it means for the Conservation and Parks Division. From that perspective, it means taking stock of all the exceptional natural resources the city has to offer and crafting a plan to ensure they remain exceptional in perpetuity. Sustainability is fundamental to all aspects of the division. It includes growing and diversifying our urban forest, maintaining our open spaces to enhance biodiversity and manage invasive species, investing in our parks to meet the needs of the community, encouraging residents to explore our Powerful Choices program, and growing our recreational offerings to accommodate a changing population. It's also important to share some of the wins that River Falls has had well before I arrived, reflecting that the city remains a leader of sustainability in the region. We're the first municipality in the state to power city buildings with 100% renewable energy, the first to have a LEED certified city hall in the state, and the first in the state, second in the nation, when it comes to green energy participation. We also own and operate a community solar garden with WPPI Energy. Are there things we can do to improve? Of course. Sustainability inherently requires adapting to a changing world. So the city embraces change and seeks innovative ways to be more resilient. As the division continues to build capacity, we will look to coordinate across departments to improve our sustainable programs while assessing policies that help further resiliency in the city. In the following slides, I'll take you through how the other legs of the division reflect the city's commitment to sustainability. Forestry. The mission for our forestry division is to preserve and perpetuate one of the community's most valuable natural assets, our municipal forest. Unfortunately, emerald ash borer has made accomplishing that mission very difficult. The city has removed over 2,000 trees between 2020 and 2025. Another 400 ash trees are in the process of being removed this year. That's roughly a quarter of the city's trees, which is obviously not great. The loss of trees is significant from both an ecological and economic perspective, but luckily we see the light at the end of the tunnel. In 2027, we will begin planting more trees than are planned to be removed, which seems like simple math, but that's a good thing. And we can begin reversing that trend of being at a tree deficit in the coming years. Well, I think I can safely say that everyone's sick of EAD. What I'm most excited about is the development of a forestry management plan, which will be the city's first update in 26 years. This plan draws directly from the city's comprehensive plan, advancing its 6 guiding goals of connection, livability, access, resources, partnership, and resiliency. It's intended to formalize existing policies and practice into one comprehensive forestry plan. It will also provide a roadmap to nurture a more healthy, diverse, and resilient urban forest for current and future generations. Parks. There are many ingredients that contribute to a locale's sense of place, but one of River Falls' key ingredients is its park system. There's the historic nature of Glen, the naturalistic environs of DeSanctis, the active hub of Hoffman, and the many miles of trails throughout our open spaces. There are 28 parks in all, each with its own sense of place, but collectively, they transcend the system to a truly unique resource. I think that all stems from the fact that the city was built around the Kinnickinnic. The natural environment is so ingrained in the city that providing anything less than exceptional parks would run counter to its very being. But as the city continues to grow, the strain on our existing parks will also grow. One of the statistics I like to share is that the city provides 26 acres of parkland for every 1,000 people, which is double the national standard. Pretty awesome. If we are to sustain that level of excellence, resources must be put forth to update our current parks while also developing new parkland elsewhere. That's exactly what makes the Kinney Corridor project so exciting. This is a 20-year vision for creating 1,500-acre gem for River Falls, not so different from Forest Park in Portland or the Grand Rounds in Minneapolis. The city is working diligently with the Army Corps of Engineers, the National Park Service, and other partner organizations to make this a reality. While the full scope of the plan could take many years, we are currently working towards breaking off smaller projects, short-term projects from the plan to implement in the next 3 to 5 years. This includes development of a park on Riverside Drive to improve access to the river from North Main Street and improving recreational water access at Cedar Street via another park. We're also working towards implementation of the Glen, Hoffman, and Sterling Pond Park master plans, with Glen Park implementation set as a 25-27 City Council priority. These projects respond to community input reflected in the outdoor recreation plan while supporting the city's sustainability and resiliency goals. Recreation. It was clear from my first day on the job that recreation is a source of pride for the city. The bike races hosted by Cork at Whitetail Ridge, the success of the Falcons sports teams, the bustling crowds at First National Bank Stadium, the parade of programs offered by Community Ed and the city's rec program. Each clearly illustrates that a love of recreation emanates from every corner of the community, and it's the city's role to nurture that love. No matter what flavor of recreation, a diverse array of opportunities are essential to maintaining a good quality of life for the community while also drawing visitors from across the region. These resources provide places for people to interact socially, be physically active, and connect with the natural environment. I'm a strong believer in the idea that the more people get out and experience the natural environment, the more ownership they will feel towards it, and the more likely they are to care for it. Leveraging our recreation programs to inform people about our natural resources and how to responsibly enjoy them is a key to fostering long-term stewardship. I'd like to highlight a few rec programs that the city is offering this year that fit that mold. Trout Unlimited will continue to offer their annual fly fishing course for adults. A variety of insect and animal camps are available to little ones, like Raya here in the office. And I'm sorry, in the audience. And for the first time, we are partnering with Alicia Miller with KRLT to offer courses for grade school kids geared towards camping, hiking, and living sustainably. Offering activities like these reflect the city's commitment to engaging community members of all ages. Recreation is a key tool for us to encourage residents to become invested in our parks and open spaces through fun and interactive offerings. Not only is the population of River Falls growing, the composition of it's also changing. As the population and culture shift, the demand for various recreation activities can be expected to change. Recreational interests and trends ebb and flow, and new trends emerge swiftly. Look at pickleball, that just came like a rocket. We revisit the outdoor recreation plan every 5 years to ensure we're monitoring these shifts and making plans to accommodate them, while prioritizing our natural resources along the way. Natural resources. That idea of growth as a concern is one I hear expressed a lot, especially in regards to our natural resources. In the comprehensive planning process, when asked what issues or opportunities were most concerning over the next 20 years, protection of those resources was one of two top priorities. We understand this concern as rampant development would wipe out any natural resource in a hurry. But that's not what River Falls does. We realize natural resources are a key element of our identity, and management of them in coordination with the development process creates opportunities to connect the community to said resources. As decisions are made, we evaluate the management, preservation, and needs of all local assets, especially natural resources. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, capital improvement projects that the city currently has slated is a natural resources project. The dam removal project with the Army Corps of Engineers is a $24 million project aimed at reviving 50 acres of habitat along a Class 1 trout stream, smack dab in the middle of the city. This is a project the city has prioritized, and perhaps more than any other action, illustrates our commitment to preserving and enhancing our environment. In addition to the Kinney Corridor project and the forestry management plan mentioned previously, there are several other initiatives my division is pursuing in relation to conservation. This includes the creation of a management plan for Foster Cemetery, which will be the first step towards creating a citywide open space management plan. This process will inventory our city's exceptional natural resources to enhance public use while balancing conservation goals. In tandem, We will be developing an invasive species management plan to help fight one of the biggest threats to our natural resources. But we know we can't do this all by ourselves. Our community partners are essential to all of these efforts. These partnerships are instrumental in maintaining the connectedness that we so value as a community. Groups like the Prairie Enthusiasts, Trout Unlimited, KRLT do incredible work to further conservation in River Falls. Partners like Kinney Off-Road Cyclists and River Falls Disc Golf help keep our residents active while helping them explore some of our many unique natural areas. Grow to Share are champions of making sustainable agricultural accessible to all residents. Unfortunately, I can't give a shout out to everyone on this list or every community partner, but as you can tell from the list, my division has a long roster of groups that we will lean on to help further sustainable initiatives in the city, whether it be in sustainability, forestry, parks, recreation, or natural resources. So thanks again for having me. And one last shout out to UWRF Sustainability and Hope for Earth for having me. And at this point, I'd love to continue the conversation with you all in attendance. Sorry, by conversation and questions. Go ahead, Tanya. Garlic mustard and buckthorn. Ay, ay, ay. It's just everywhere. I'll first start by reiterating our relationship with the Prairie Enthusiasts who have just done absolutely incredible work along the Kinney and Foster Cemetery, the Rocky Branch Oak Savanna. They've done just incredible work in removing buckthorn throughout those areas in particular, and we would love to engage them more, though I know their resources are limited as a volunteer organization. So our goal with that open space management plan I mentioned is to inventory where in the city are priority areas in terms of their natural significance. If there are others like Foster Cemetery, I imagine we would know about them, but taking stock of what we have and seeing how severe the buckthorn or garlic mustard problems are is kind of the first step, because we just really want to take a systematic approach to doing it given limited resources and going out to additional contractors to help with the removal. I think finishing up with EAB removal will help, I should say ash removal will help open up other resources that we would want to plug in towards the next kind of invasive species, which really is buckthorn or garlic mustard or anything like it.
What is the biggest hurdle to the competing one right now?
The question was, what is the current biggest hurdle to the Canadian Corridor project? So I think the first, or I guess the current hurdle is getting the feasibility study done through the Army Corps of Engineers. I don't think it's a stretch to say that what's happening at the federal level has complicated a lot of matters, and slowed a lot of processes down that were previously thought of as, kind of easy. So I think and not to say that the Army Corps of Engineers is doing anything to slow that process. I think just funding has become a question. So getting that done is the first hurdle. And then, of course, finding the money to make it happen is an additional hurdle that we're working towards, whether it be through the pursuit of grants, federal help, otherwise. Those two factors are the biggest hurdles.
Have you planned for what you're going to replace the emerald, the ash trees with?
The question was, do we have a plan for how we're going to replace the ash trees removed by emerald ash borer or because of emerald ash borer? And that's a great question and one that we're incorporating into this forestry management plan and have started doing since last year. And I think the city's done a great job previously, but we're just trying to document it. But we really want to set tangible diversity goals in the trees that we plant. So if you look around the city now, there's obviously a ton of ash trees, many of which have been removed. The second is maple trees. There are a lot of maple trees, and it's a beautiful tree. I love maple trees. There's nothing wrong with them per se, but they're so good that people fell so in love with them and we planted them everywhere. So what we really want to try to do is plant a diverse array of species, hopefully mostly natives, though those are sometimes hard to procure at nurseries and the like. And also consider the changing climate and how trees from the south are starting to move northward. And so that's an added opportunity for us to incorporate more trees that people may not be used to and can set us up really well for the future. So there are some set rules about, of every 100 trees, don't go above X amount for that, and we're trying to maintain those. And as a policy moving forward, trying to get that into the management plan so that we make sure to not overplant a particular species.
Do you have thoughts in mind regarding wildlife food as you choose those trees and other plantings too?
The question was about consideration of wildlife food in the trees that we plant. And yes, I think the benefit to planting native or predominantly native is even if the fruit or nut of the tree isn't immediately visible to humans, there's a lot of beneficial pollinators and insects and smaller creatures that benefit from native trees. So yeah, I think that's definitely a consideration. I mean, we want to think about our street trees and how having oak trees along the street isn't always ideal, but there's plenty of other great places to plant oaks. So there's a number of factors that we want to consider. And the reality is people are a factor too. And how we use our streets is a factor. So, saving the big, huge trees with lots of nuts for our park spaces or ones where we have more space is beneficial. And also incorporating smaller trees like red buds and service berries that, may not provide the same amount of shade, but offer a lot of benefit to pollinators and insects and other sorts.
Do you plan to continue to set aside money for the electric utility customers? The electric utility budget, paying kitty corridor expense.
The question was about setting aside utility money for Kinney Corridor expenses. And at this time, I don't think that any such plans are set. Really, this next step is to get the feasibility study. Anyone who's been following the project may know that project costs have changed over time. That, of course, is due to the development of the project. On any construction project, as you get more detail and the drawings get more advanced, more information becomes available and those costs get refined. And there's also a lot of escalating costs. So just with the state of the world today, there's been a lot of cost escalation with inflation and such. And so it's kind of difficult to pin down a final number and determine what those plans are. So I can't give a solid answer about setting aside funds via utility. I don't think that's being done currently. And we would first pursue grant money to do so. Okay.
Yeah. If electric utility budget money you're being set aside for scenic corridor.
I understand. I'm misunderstood. It's not being taken currently to be set aside. It is planned to be set aside. Yes, right.
So the electric appear to be the only residents of A for scenic corridor. Yeah.
That is a consideration.
There's a question online.
Okay.
Will the city reduce the number of existing parks and or their size?
Reduce.
Will the city reduce the number of existing parks or change their size?
No, there is no current plans to reduce the size of parks, or change existing park sizes.
I was starting to address concerns about development and the natural resources. Could you take some time and just describe that process for us, like with some recent housing developments? How does your department engage in that process, and like what kinds of things are you doing to ensure that there are those natural resources being protected?
Sure, that's a great question. So my division in particular managed. Oh gosh, repeat the question. The question was to ask what my division contributes, or sorry, I'm blanking again. What we contribute in the process of development, in developing parks and consider the natural resources in that process. My division oversees the Park and Recreation Advisory Board, and when development comes through, it gets presented to the park board for input. And in that process, it determines, okay, is this development going to provide parkland as a part of the development, or they can provide cash in lieu of parkland? So if a development does not provide parkland, they have the option of providing cash to the city, which then gets allocated to park specific funds. So the park board provides a recommendation on which way to go with recommendations from city staff. So that's done through the community development department. So through the planning and conservation and parks divisions. Currently, there's been a few recent annexations of land that comes to the city without our soliciting it. Landowners offer to sell the land to a developer. It then becomes annexed, and then we begin that process. And we're working towards trying to have more review process, I guess, as far as what parkland is being proposed, or trying to get developers to provide options for how the park gets developed. But as we consider development, we want to think of the whole park system and what's around it, what's in proximity to it, what's missing in our park system, and what could potentially be included in certain developments.
So kind of similar to, so in a lot of the new developments I see for Falls, I'm not seeing any old trees cut. And do you have any input to help into the developers and trying to get them to keep some of the current trees instead of just like wholly bulldozing everything, and then once it's developed, planting little trees here and there, and then it's just like air landscape, but no big trees, are just.
Yeah. So the question was about, with new development, what purview does the city have in kind of preventing clearing of forests or mature trees? And currently there aren't any ordinances in the city code preventing that. And I think that's one of the things that's one of the reasons why we're putting together the forestry management plan, is to kind of first inventory what we have and make the case for why urban forests should have a diverse array of sizes in the forest. And obviously it's not rocket science to say that mature trees are good. But ultimately, we would like to put forth work with city staff, council, and park board, and any other interested parties in making ordinances to prevent that kind of clearing and preserve those large trees while also not hindering development. You don't want to have onerous code where no new development is possible, or at least the numbers aren't penciling out. But to have some code language is key and something that we're going to work towards. Yeah.
As this indicates moving towards Foster Cemetery, is there plans to develop or protect that or use that anyway?
So the question was about growth towards Foster Cemetery or in that area, correct? So there is kind of a built-in buffer around it with city-owned property on nearly every side of Foster Cemetery with no plans to develop that. In the surrounding area and in the Kinney corridor, we have plans for developing trails and providing increased access to Foster Cemetery while also not changing how much or what kind of traffic goes in there. So the reason we're putting together the Foster Cemetery Management Plan is to formalize its presence, because right now there is no such plan other than what the prairie enthusiasts have put together on an ecological level. But we're taking steps to formalize the protection of Foster Cemetery from both a ecological and cultural perspective.
With the planting new trees from removing the emerald ash trees, do you plan on planting any trees that provide any edible or medicinal value?
Well, edible values a good question. I don't know if you know it, but in Highview Meadows, there is a community orchard. That's something that I don't think is openly advertised often, but and some people like to hear that exists. But we do have, I think, some crab apples and apple trees on our list of approved trees to be planted in boulevards. I think, enhancing the community orchard would be nice, and then also considering the wildlife food is kind of paramount too, because a lot of the trees we plant are on boulevards, and I'm not sure that with street salt and pollution that people always look to the boulevards for food, or if that's the best thing to provide. But certainly something we could consider, and I can't say we have considered the medicinal component. Tanya.
So kind of following on that, I want to hear more about plans to expand green energy and reduce landfill waste.
So the question was about plans to reduce landfill waste and expand green energy, correct? So that's a good question. I don't know that there are current plans in the city to expand green energy. As I mentioned in the presentation, we do have the community solar component. We don't have plans for wind or additional large scale solar projects. But one thing I do want to work towards is expanding customer buy-in to our Green Blocks program and the Powerful Choices program, where more people are choosing to use sustainable energy. And I think part of that is just informing the public that it exists and that opportunity is there, because I think that's something that we can work towards. As far as the landfill piece, I don't directly oversee the waste management component or contract, but looking at the yard waste site and thinking more about how we can incorporate composting on a citywide level is something we could certainly explore.
Or meetings, is there any? Kilowatt. Dam and hydrant. At Junction Falls Dam.
I can't directly answer that question. I would be happy to pass that question along to the utility, who may be a little more informed on that transition of power. I just can't answer that right now.
Thank you, you can't have all the answers.
I try. The question was about plans for increasing pollinator habitats in city parks or throughout the city. And yes, there are plans. Obviously, with the Kinney Corridor project, a big component of that is restoring the riverbed to its natural environment, though that's further down the line. DeSanctis Park is our city designated Bee City Park, and we're expanding pollinator habitat in that area to be more of a demonstration garden to inform people. Since it already has a big prairie component, we want to provide an educational opportunity for folks to visit the park and see on a more refined level or a more garden-like level that people can take away and say, oh, okay, so I can plant this plant and here's a little sign that says what exactly it is. So that's more in a educational realm. But as far as taking a look at our park system and looking at where we can expand those kind of seeded areas is definitely something we want to do. I'll mention too with the prairie enthusiasts and the work that they do along the corridor, that any buckthorn areas that they remove, they then reseed with native plants, mostly grasses and things for quick establishment. But I know that's been a significant increase for our pollinators in the city.
It also helps the bat population.
Absolutely, it certainly does.
The in the extraterritorial zones and boundaries, many of the townships have parks that are in those zones. Is there much communication between the River Falls City Park group and the township park and surrounding?
Yeah, so Bill asked about communication between the city of River Falls and the surrounding towns in regards to the park systems. And I can't say I've had direct communication with the towns in terms of their parks, but as we look at context around new development or where a park is located, we certainly consider the presence of those parks and seeing what's in them to make sure we're not duplicating. And then we also want to work to provide access to town residents. They're obviously they're public parks and are welcome to use them, but I think it's a good idea moving forward to communicate with them and include them on that process. I think is a great idea. Let's go.
We should have a plan in the city.
So the question was about a climate action plan and the development of it. Currently, there are not plans for one, so to speak. I think a lot of the funding was previously available to pursue kind of climate directed endeavors has dried up, which is one barrier to that as we develop plans like that. I think part of the role of my division is to look at what would be in a climate action plan and try to implement that without putting together a plan, at least not at this time. So I think one of the things that we're going to be working towards is something like a clean water policy, that would be included in a typical climate action plan. I think components in our forest management plan address that in terms of addressing a changing climate and what the city is planting to prepare for that. So unfortunately, not a great answer for what we're doing right now, but that's where we're at with it.
How can you support the work that you do and encourage the city to follow through on its mission and its vision?
The question was how the community can help support what we're doing and kind of make sure that we're following through on the things we're saying through the mission and values. I think you being here tonight is incredibly helpful. It shows that you're invested in conservation in the city and sustainability and resiliency. I think involvement in, or at least attendance at the Park and Recreation Board is helpful. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have ideas, that's a great place to share them during the public comment period. I think same goes for city council. There's a public comment period during those meetings that, I mean, it's welcome to speak at those. I also want everyone here to know that my email and phone are always open. We pride ourselves in being responsive and getting back to residents when they have concerns or questions. And so I want to encourage you to reach out to me to follow up on these things. And so I also think volunteering with our community partners is really important. I mentioned the prairie enthusiasts and their limited capacity, and Grow to Share and the work that they do is volunteer based. And so many others, I'll just go back to that slide. So many others on this list are volunteer based, and getting involved with them is paramount to making sure that those things are followed through on. So I think we're at time. Maybe one more question if anyone has a lingering one. Oh, great. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all your questions.